Welcome to Pacific Women's 6th Annual Learning Workshop. So today's focus will be reflections by women who have contested the national general elections on their experiences and what they have learned. And we hope you take away from this session learnings about factors that contribute to and hinder successful election campaigns. So today on our panel, today, our moderator is Ms. Fiona Hukula. Dr. Fiona Hukula is the gender specialist at the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. Dr. Hukula's role at PIFS or PIFS includes working closely with civil society networks and Pacific governments to support policies relating to gender equality. On our panel today, Ms. Dulciana Somare-Brash. Ms. Dulciana Somare-Brash has over 20 years development experience. She's currently a senior ministerial advisor, policy and engagement lead, in the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Commerce and Industry. Ms. Jean Parkop holds a master's degree in disability studies from Flinders University in South Australia and a bachelor's degree majoring in psychology from the University of Papua New Guinea. Ms. Parkop has taught at the UPNG for several years and has been an advocate of gender equality for more than 3 decades. Also on our panel, Ms. Lucy Siki Aiya. Ms. Lucy Siki Aiya has over 20 years extensive experience in retail, merchandising, sales, and marketing. She has worked with some well-known brand names like Trukai Industries, New Guinea Tablebirds, and Unilever Australia Export Limited, and has contributed consistently over 5 years to retail management with annual turnovers of 1 million kina. Joining us from Goroka, our panelist, Ms. Julie Soso Akeke. She has worked with Radio Eastern Highlands, NBC, as a librarian from 1980 to 1986, became an announcer in 1986, and retired in 1996 from NBC Radio Eastern Highlands. She has contested in 1997, 2002, 2007, and 2012 national general elections. The 4th time contesting won the Eastern Highlands provincial seat, and she was governor of Eastern Highlands Province in 2012. Those are our panelists for today. I'd like to ask them to take the stage today for our panel discussion.
Welcome again to our audience here and to our virtual audience in Wewak, Goroka, and Lae. Lae and Buka, not forgetting Buka. So today, this morning's panel is really speaking to 4 women who have stood for elections here in Papua New Guinea. Yesterday, there was a very interesting discussion around temporary special measures, and we had researchers presenting their findings from research that has been conducted during elections. But today, we're specifically going to speak to the candidates on their journey, their personal journey, and some of their experiences on contesting national general elections. And I'd like to ask the first question to Dulciana Somare-Brash. So Dulciana, in terms of politics, political name, your family, we all know, everybody in this country knows your father, the late great-grand chief, Sir Michael Somare. You have stood for elections in the last elections. You came 4th, which was a good outcome. But I think we also know from this country and from within the region, I believe the first Prime Minister of Samoa is also the daughter of, the first woman Prime Minister is the daughter of the first Prime Minister of Samoa. So I'm getting to the point about your name. And we know that we've seen that in this country, the children of some of our political leaders, especially our political early leaders, have gone on to go into Parliament. You're a very, very capable leader in your own right. You didn't have that the kind of success that some of us would have liked you to see, well, would have liked to see. And you've spoken in previous forums about the fact that your name couldn't guarantee your win, speaking the right language, doing the research. So in your experience, what do you think can enable a win in terms of standing for elections?
Thank you, Dr. Hukula. Thank you. That's a very loaded question. In terms of guarantees, there are no guarantees at all. Not for males, not for females. Papua New Guinea is a very, very difficult, we operate in a very difficult political context, but we also operate in an extremely diverse cultural context. We adopted a system at independence that wasn't one that our ancestors had adapted into over 400 or 500 years, not even over 30 to 40 years. So if we look at the landscape within which, I'll get back to your original question, but I think the context that politics changes every 5 years in this country and throughout the world, I suspect. Having a big name and a big brand helps, but the demand for leadership is heavily reliant on voters, their experiences, their development challenges. So in East Sepik, obviously, there is no cookie-cutter model. We're not the same as West Sepik. We're not even, they call us all momase, like we're all a homogenous group of people. By no stretch should we start to assume that all our needs and all our challenges are exactly the same. So going back to your question around a guarantee, I hope that, as we as women start to contest and prepare now for 2022, that we understand the context and the climate and the particular structure that we have to operate in. Culture very separately but linked to the political system within which we operate. In terms of a guarantee, and I'm a bit reluctant to continue to use the word guarantee, because of the fact that there are lots of things at play. Yesterday we spoke about a few things. We spoke about the voters' demands, and that's about Hanmak, Yuga Hanmak by Isanap. We spoke about introducing temporary special measures. A mechanism that is by design supposed to create gender equality and to assist in getting more equal representation in the legislature in this case. I think as we go through, in the interest of time, I won't continue to speak about the issues, but as I go to plan for 2022, there are some things that are very, very clear. Our economy is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. As someone who's going to vie for a seat in Parliament, you have to know the difference between a provincial seat, a district seat, what the job of a local level government is, what ward councillors are supposed to do. Your role is not to be a public finance manager as you go to put your hand up. Your role is actually to understand the importance of service delivery, the size of our population, our ability to generate internal revenue, to increase national household income, and how you're going to contribute when you stand in that chamber with 89 districts and 22 provinces, and what you will do to assist Papua New Guineans to turn the corner now from a development story that's actually not been as good as what our resource wealth suggests to the world. So I think just going back to the question about the guarantees, whether it's a family name, whether it's a brand, whether you're backed by a political party, I think the important feature for us all to understand, first of all, as women, as the first teachers of our children, and I think that's the starting point. If there is an urgency for our voices to be heard on our terms on the floor of Parliament, our experiences will be the same. There is one more thing that I would just like to add, pardon me, to my fellow panellists and to Madam Soso, is that there is one context that has evolved now, and it's a different, I guess, expectation by voters. I'm hearing now, as we approach 2022, that in many jurisdictions they're asking, first of all, voters or influential people in those communities are asking for funding in advance, money. This is creating, all that creates is, an environment where the highest bidder has the greatest chance, not the best legislator. Now, we should continue to focus on that. Money politics has hurt us in this country, and it will continue to. And if we want the development and the changes and the political will and the economic empowerment for our people, now is the time to take a closer look at what it is we're putting up our hands for as women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing those insights. We'll move on to Ms. Jean Parkop, who stood for elections twice, 2012 and 2017, running for the governor's seat in Oro province. In 2017, she came second. So I think from Jean, in terms of how you fared in both elections, 2012 and then 2017, what did you see as the difference in, because you did quite well. You came second in the last elections. If you could share that.
Thanks, Dr. Hukula. Hello, Olgeta. Thank you for the question. It's on, yeah. First of all, I want to state that my decision to contest or become a politician was made in 1977. And I think this is important. Politics is not something that you just get up no good and you want to get into because your father has been a politician like Dulciana, and my husband is a politician, and that you just get into it because others are doing it. This is an important decision you're making, so it has to be something that you've decided to do and you do it. So 2012, but I actually participated or became a candidate, contested in 2012. The difference between 2012 and 2017 is my preparedness. I found that in 2012, I made a decision a month before the writs were issued. And so I was like way back. And so my merchandise were not ready. Only my posters were ready. Others have gone ahead and did their awareness and all that. So I was doing all these things when I was campaigning. So for 2017, I went in prepared. So I started my preparation in 2014. So, and the other thing as part of my preparation was that I attended training that was conducted by OSAID, which other candidates also attended. So these two things helped me in my 2017 election. For early preparations, I visited communities, especially those that had hosted me in 2012. I visited them. Thank you, Longol. And if I had to give them something I did, the Melanesian way is important for those of us contesting in Papua New Guinea. I made my gardens important for us, those of us who are in the provinces, in rural areas. You've got to feed your people when they come. I also prepared my family. So both my immediate family, my children and my husband were ready. They knew I was contesting. And also my extended families at home, not only my brothers and sisters, but also my cousins. They were all ready because in 2012, they didn't know I was contesting, so they had already made up their mind, decided who to vote. So when I went in late, it was hard for them, many of them, to decide to change their minds. So early preparedness. People need to know what you look like, how you speak, and very important, what is it that you want to do for them in that particular section, like in a locality. Like in Tufi, I don't talk about the things that I'm going to do for people on the border of Oro and Morobe, which are my own people. This is a quite different expectation there than people in Tufi that is closer to on the border of Milne and Oro. So you've got to know your people. your electorate. That was what I think Dr. Kua or Dr. Gelu was talking about yesterday. If you're contesting, you need to know your people, your electorate, the challenges that are given. So you do all this in a preparatory stage. So I did that, and I also distributed my merchandise during the preparatory stage. I didn't do that at the campaign period. My campaign period, everybody, I was just there presenting myself, talking about my messages, giving my messages and all that. So I think the big difference for me was my preparedness. So women, if you are thinking of going into election, I see, and I've been encouraging women who want to contest to start preparing. If you haven't joined a political party, you join them. Become a member and start participating. You don't wait until 1 month before the election or the writs are issued and you start looking around for political parties to endorse you. No, you do that. You should have done that years ago. So that was a big difference for me. And in the training that we've attended, it helped me to be more strategic. So, like what Dulciana said, the campaign in a provincial, if you're running for a provincial seat, is more challenges because you are going from border to border, whereas in the open electorate is more confined, you know. So at the at this time, you need to be more strategic, and you decide to invest in the areas you know you're going to get more primary votes. So that's what helped me in 2017. So I knew by then who was going to give me the votes I needed to put me ahead of others. So I invested heavily in there by visiting them, you know, giving whatever I had to. So that way, that helped me in getting the primary votes that I did. And also, the training that we've attended also helped me to devise my campaign message clearer than what I did in 2012, because I just went in very late. All I did was just, you know, educate people about quality leadership and all that, and surprisingly I came. I was in the top 10 out of the 72 candidates. But as I said, women, prepare early so people will know you, they will know the messages, that especially what is it that you're going to do when you become their member of parliament. Well, and I think we've also asked to talk about what was our experiences in 2017 that we are going to use that for 2022. Ladies, I can say that free and fair election is still a dream. You know, free and fair. That I can tell you. You can have what it takes to be a leader. You can give your best in the campaign, have the best campaign strategy, or you give out whatever, you know, you can say how much doctorate or one kind work you make him kind. But in the end, I tell you, people still want money. So if you want to run a clean campaign, and you want to be clean and honest, this place is not a place for people who are honest and clean. You can be defeated at the eve of election because our people still want money. I don't know about other provinces, but for Oro, people want money. And that's how people, at the eve of election, a lot of your voters will be taken away. That's what happened to mine. And so for me, that was a big lesson for me. And I also spent too much time on preparedness, preparing, and campaigning period. And I didn't do well to protect the votes that had gone into the box. So there are different stages in election. So one of them is the voting stage and the counting stage, these are also very important. So at the voting stage, you need to make sure you know how many people are going to vote for you in that particular ward or something. So you make sure that your voters stand up and vote. And you ensure that those votes are protected. They go into the box and they are counted. And it got all processed by UBNM Lomekim Disla. And for me, that's something I did not do. And I lost a lot of votes. And so for this time, I want to know how many votes I'm going to get, or how many the voting population in different wards. So our coordinators are already working at it. Now we are not waiting for the government. We are already updating, beginning to update the common roll ourselves. So ladies out there, I'm encouraging you to do the same. I hope what I have shared will help you in preparing for your 2022 election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Parkop. I think you've you've really outlined some very key experiences, findings, and real practical advice to women who are considering standing for the elections in 2022. So our next panelist, Lucy Siki Aiya, ran for the 2017 elections for KVN Open. So I think, you know, there is a bit of a maybe a misunderstanding maybe or around in this country that in matrilineal societies, because women own the land, or marry, or boss block ground, they're leaders in their own right, that naturally, you know, there should be that ability to have them come through to our national level parliament. And we know from history that we've never had anybody from, any woman from our matrilineal societies come through right to national parliament. And so the question for you is, Lucy, is that in terms of, as I just mentioned, New Ireland is a matrilineal society, or Merisago Pasilo Planti something, or Boss Block Ground. We don't see that kind of leadership. And I must say that in the last LLG elections, New Ireland did well in terms of women coming through at that level. But we don't see that at the national level for national elections. What do you think are some of the contributing factors for this outcome?
Thank you very much, Doctor. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me to be part of the panel here, where I can share some of the experiences that I went through, and the question that you've just asked. It was my first time to go into elections. I wasn't actually planned earlier like what Jean did, but with my work experience where I traveled the country and out of the country as well, I've seen different places, different provinces with how they developed their places, how the services were delivered. And coming back to where I come from, I saw that a lot of things were still lacking. People were still, there were no big changes in their lives. My mother is from the Highlands region, from Aiya province, and my dad is from New Highland, from Musawa Highland. So after the Second World War, my father went up there and met my mother in Warbeck. So that's how I came up. I'm at a crossroad. Say the Highlands, it's a patrilineal system, and back in New Highland, it's a matrilineal system. So society. So I'm sitting on the crossroad. But with my movement of work experience, of my knowledge and all that, I see that I saw that there was a need to go back to New Ireland. So when I went back there, I saw that there need to have a woman leader in the national election, so in the national level. I believe that because it's a matrilineal system, I thought that women will vote for women. That was my confidence that I had. But it didn't work out that way. The respect was given to women. They still maintain that the role as a woman have the power, they have the leadership to look after land, all that. But when it comes to decision making, it goes back to the head of the family, or it goes back to the chieftain society that we have, where we have the chief that makes the decision there. So we also have the council of elders in place. So when they make the decision, even though the woman has that power and respect, she still has to listen to the head of the clan or the head of the family. So, but if that wasn't the case, and if the woman was to make the decision, we would have had a woman long time ago in Parliament representing New Ireland. Because it was my first time, and I thought that I have to look at the strategy where I can at least fall into top 10 or try to win the race. I was fighting against big giants, and they told me I was a little mosquito trying to fight them. And they said they were Goliath. And I told them that David killed Goliath with only one stone. So if we can do that, we can do that too. So that was the confidence that I moved with. The strategy that I played was, because it was my first time, I tried to make friends with all the 22 candidates. Because I knew that most of them, they already contested in the previous elections, or they were already a sitting member, or they were the previous members before, member of parliament. So I had to make friends with them because I want to exchange 2 and 3. That was the strategy that I played, and it worked out well. For a first-timer, I fall into the 5th place. But after the election, they realized that they chose the wrong, they made a wrong decision. That's what I was told, but maybe it's true, maybe it was not true. How could I trust them when the first time you go out, you talk to them, they talk nicely to you, but when casting the vote, they do the different thing. So what I see is the ratio in New Ireland. I'm talking New Ireland now because I was representing, from there. So the ratio in New Ireland, there was more women than men. So when I count the population, that okay, if we can get all the women to vote for a woman, we can have 1 woman in parliament. There were 3 of us who were contesting the open seat and 1 in the regional. So there were only 4 of us. My campaign was, let's go for 1 woman. So we have 3 votes, 1, 2, 3, give it to all the women. So every woman vote for a woman. Then we can see the difference in there, and we can make the difference there. But like I said, the decision is made by the head of the family or the clan leader, the chief in the community. So it didn't work out that way. But I also see that we can also do more good awareness. The people back in the community need to be really we need to really educate them. We have to make very good awareness to them. Not on 30 minutes on a microphone on a stage trying to deliver or do awareness, but go down to the community level on a one-on-one base, back in the village community. Now, after the election, I was also engaged by Barbara from University of Canberra to do the family farm team training to assist her with that program. Now that program was really very good because I went to the village and I made sure that we had a family to sit in for each of this program. If the husband was there, if the wife was not there, I said, you're going to bring your wife, you got teenage children, sons or daughters, bring them in. They all have to sit in for this program. Because if all of them sit for this program and they are educated well, they will understand everything that what we are trying to drive. So in that way, I see that they understood what we were trying to teach them or train them. From there, the feedbacks were there should be more of these trainings so that we can have more people to really understand the concept of what we are trying to do for them. You know, Papua New Guinea got independence 45, 47 years ago, but still back in the communities, there's no service deliverers. And the people in the community, they really want to vote for change. And there's another thing too, that the educated men and women, professional men and women, they are not working closely with the people back in the community. So we can speak the same language. And we can try to bring change. The educated people come and say a different thing. And when in the community, they say a different thing. Now, back in the community, they're feeling the pinch of the pain of what they're going through, the challenges they're going through. The educated people, they don't face that because they're in the town, cities. So the educated person comes in and say, vote this guy, vote this party. Because they have been through with these people out in the cities, but not back in the community. So, yes, New Ireland is a woman-led society, but still the decision is made by the head of the family or the clan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insights, Lucy. So in the interest of time, we'll move on to Madame Julie Soso Akeke, who is joining us from Goroka. Good morning, Madam. I hope you are well out there in the cold place, Goroka. So, Madam Julie Soso Akeke was the governor of the Eastern Highlands. She won the national elections. She has been a member of parliament. I want to ask you two questions at the same time, Madam Julie. In terms of your experience in parliament and also your strategy to winning the elections. So firstly, what would you say was your winning strategy that got you elected as the governor of Eastern Highlands, which I think is no mean feat in a Highlands province, a big province with borders. I think many women in Papua New Guinea were very, very excited and happy when you won. And also, having been in parliament, you know, because there's the challenge of getting into parliament as in winning the election, but there's also the challenge of being in parliament itself. So if you could also just share what the most challenging part of being a woman member of parliament was for you during your time as a parliamentarian. Thank you. You're on mute. If you could unmute, thank you. Still on mute. Still on mute. No, got it. But you unmute your screen.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. All right.
You hear me now?
Me hear you now, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hukula, our moderator. Na morning lomi to Dulciana, and good morning also to Jean, and good morning to Lucy. Good morning to everyone who's listening all over Papua New Guinea. Yes, I'm pleased to be one of the panelists this morning on this program. Yeah, the questions, I'll get straight to the questions. What was your strategy in winning the governor's seat? For me, I'll say that I had been the roles that I play with Radio Eastern Highlands as the announcer in Eastern Highlands. I already was a household name already, being the radio announcer and saying good morning, good afternoon, coming on air in the morning and in the afternoons. So that was in 1980 all the way to 1996. And then in 1996, mid-1996 October, was elected the president of Eastern Highlands Provincial Council of Women. And being the president of Eastern Highlands Provincial Council of Women, I took part in so many advocacy and awareness programs on equal rights, that women should be given equal rights, equal opportunity, and also advocacy on women's rights, human rights, and all this. So I took part in all these advocacy programs when being a president of Eastern Highlands Women's Council for another 15 years. That's from 1996 all the way to year 2012 when I was elected the governor of Eastern Highlands Province. I handed the presidency over to the other women in the province. But talking about strategy, you have to be known by your province. You have to be known by the citizen of the province, your voters. The voters must know you. So my privilege was that I was an announcer for some 15 years with Radio Eastern Highlands, and then another 15 years being the president of Eastern Highlands Provincial Council of Women, playing the leadership role within the Women's Council Network, and the network which is established throughout the 8th district of Eastern Highlands Province. And we have the World Women's Association too. So the Provincial Council of Women Network went all the way down to the LLG ward level. So with all this network, all behind me and backing me up, I contested in 1997. In 1997, national elections, I came 4th place. All because while we were talking to the governor at that time, I representing the women, with the women leaders of the province, we brought a petition to the governor at that time. And the governor at that time didn't want to entertain the women of the province. So being the leader of the women of the province was provoked to contest the regional seat. So in 1997, I contested the regional seat, came 4th place. And then again in 2002, I came 6th place. And then in 2007, I contested again, and I came 6th place again. And then finally in 2012, I was elected the governor of Eastern Highlands Province. So my persistency and my consistency and persistency in trying to achieve that governor seat, to win that governor seat, made my people in Eastern Highlands believed in me that I was serious. I was serious to be the governor of the province. So came to 2012 election, I was elected the governor of Eastern Highlands Province. So the strategy here is that you have to be known by your people in the province. The people in the province must know you. The people in the province must know how serious you are. The people in your electorate, just like Jean said, and we really need to know our province. We really need to know our electorate. The people in our electorate that we want to contest in, the people in our province that we want to contest in, they have to really know us. So they know us, who we are, our perseverance, our persistence in contesting, we will make it there. So listening to Jean, Jean is a second time contester of the seat in Oro province. So I believe that if she continues, she will come home like me. So encouraging all the women in Papua New Guinea that we have to know our province, we have to know our electorate, we have to know our people, the people must know us, and then eventually they will have confidence in us, they will believe in us, and they will give us the seat that we are contesting for. So the strategy is that there was continuity, there was consistency, there was perseverance. I did not give up. The first time I contested, I did not give up. Second time I contested, did not give up. The third time, I came home. Okay, that's another challenge. Facing the election, going to the elections, going for your campaign, finding a party to support you, having the funds to go out there and contest the elections. This is another mammoth challenge that women will have to face. Men are also facing that one too. They have to have the money to go and contest the elections. We women too, we also must have the money to go and contest the elections. So for me, it's the 8 districts, the terrains that I have to walk, the valleys that I have to go down. I have to go and sleep in the rural communities, stay with the people out there so that they know me. So that's what happened in 1997, 2002, 2007, I continued. And then in 2012 was elected the governor. The other challenge, being a governor in the parliament, a member of the parliament, and being a governor is another challenge, is another mammoth challenge itself. So being a governor, belonging to a party, I contested under the banner of that party. I went into the parliament, I was that party member. And I thought that that party was already in the government, forming the government at that time when we got into the parliament, 2013, 2014, we were sucked out of the government. We were told to go and stay in the opposition. So when the party leader went to the opposition, being a female parliamentarian, a female, I have to be loyal to the party that I belong. So I moved into the opposition. When I moved into the opposition, I began to see that doors were shutting for me. And being a provincial governor, I want to deliver. Being a first-time politician, I want to deliver. But when you are stuck in the opposition, you are stuck. So you will be waiting for your PSIP. You will be waiting for, the government to listen to you and give you the funds that you want for your projects. So I had to abandon my relationship with the party, that party. I had to leave that party leader, Don Collier, and that party team in the opposition, and I had to cross the floor again because I was threatened at that time that me as the provincial administrator will have to appoint, but my PEC will have to appoint a PA, and the PA will be my selected PA, the provincial PEC's PA, will be given to the National Executive Council, the NEC, to approve my PA. But because I was in the opposition, they were throwing the PA position around, and the NEC decided to put their own man in as the PA. So I have to think about myself, my province, the electorate that I stood for, I contested for. So I have to cross the floor, get into the parliament and in the government. And being in the government, I asked for my PA, and they gave me my PA. So the other challenge, being a member of the parliament is not easy. If you want to deliver in the electorate that you represent, you have to be in the government. So it's another challenge. It's another battle itself. It's another task that we have to face within the government itself. So I had to cross the floor, and I was given my PA position, and I took my PA in and came to the province. In the province again, I have to chair assembly. As the governor, I have to chair the assembly. And the assembly of 36 members. I have 24 LLG presidents. I have 4 nominated members and the 8 MPs. And being the chairperson of the Provincial Assembly, as the governor, you have to chair the Provincial Assembly meetings. You have to see that you do the annual budgets so that the budgets are brought down to Port Moresby, they are approved, and then the implementation of the budget is the following year. So these are some of the challenges that I face. I was threatened once that there will be a vote of no confidence in the governor at that time by my own Provincial Assembly members. And I have to play my own politics within the provincial government to hold on to my 24 LLG presidents who were my pillars, who saw that I stood as a governor and served for the full term. So these are some of the challenges that I faced being a governor of Eastern Highlands Province.
Thank you so much, Madam Julie Soso Akeke. I think, you know, what your experience is really important for women who are intending to stand, because we will get into Parliament at one point in time, and it's that experience that you've already gone through that will also help those who are aspiring to get into Parliament. So my last question is to all of you is related to 2 online questions that have come through, one from Buka and one from WeWork, around one piece of advice, I think, in terms of people intending candidates. If there was one piece of advice that each of you could give in terms of how to approach the next election. I'll start with you, Dulciana, and we'll go down at one piece of advice based on your previous experience.
Thank you, Dr. Hukula. And thank you, former Governor Julie Soso, for a really insightful view. on the reality of not just before, after, and during. So thank you. As to the question of advice, well, I didn't win a seat, so I'm still working hard to find out, to work with other candidates, to work with sitting members. That's a really important one, to understand where the gaps are in terms of the development challenges. Very important to know how many registered voters are in the seat that you're contesting. Very important to understand what is the starting point. Well, in the current preferential system, it's 50+1. You work on your 2s and 3s. Your primary vote has to be the most important thing. Know what you don't know. So, if you don't understand something well enough, go and find out about it. Don't waste your time on the seats or on the areas where you already know you're going to get the support. Work with other candidates, team up with candidates, because at the end of the day, it's about who gets the invitation to form government as we come back here this time next year. There are a few magic numbers. There is a science to this. The invitation goes to, by law, the party with the greatest number. Usually it sits from 15 all the way up to 24, and then a coalition partnership is arranged. So, to go in there individually, to think that our system is one where you go in there and work by yourself. I think we've heard the experience across the range now, that whether you stand in a district or whether you stand in a provincial seat, if you don't know how difficult it is to build a kilometre of road, Unisalo Pulimpawa, Unisalo Wanahapem, Olnogawara, where all stop solo tais na mangro, where mountainous regions, where telecommunications is impossible, where energy and power and schools and education and roads, then you're already starting at the back of the line. So know what you need to actually propose and understand the challenges of the people that you're trying to put your hand up to represent in Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you. I think in addition to what Dulciana is saying, 2 things, actually 3. I want to emphasize preparing early, please. That's important. So if you are thinking of contesting in 2022 and you are sitting, still deciding whether or not to, you decide. You should have decided a long time ago. Last year or the year before, and start your preparation. Okay. Secondly, join a party, because I have my own party, but I believe that if you go independent, you will be like John the Baptist shouting and there's nobody. If you have good manager, he will help you. But I find that if you have a party leader that has endorsed you, and all the party leaders are men. So for a woman contesting, seeing a party leader who is a man who believes in this woman helps men decide to vote for you, and I find it helpful. Finally, but not the least, have a good manager who is not going to sit and wait for you to tell him what to do. Somebody who is going to go ahead and start preparing, doing the groundwork, and he's visiting areas that he thinks or she thinks needs to be visited, and gets you when you're ready, you go and visit the others. So those are, in addition to what Dulciana, there's so many things you could do, but I think these 3, and also emphasizing knowing the number of voters you have in your electorate. So for provincial candidates, 100,000 or 200,000, you must have a long wall. Yeah. But especially those that have, who are going to give you a base vote, so you can monitor them when they are voting. Thank you.
My advice is, if we can, our voters, our supporters, we can go back and check our electoral rolls to see that our names are on the roll. The big disappointment in my case was most of the supporters or the people, they voted in 2012. Unfortunately, their names were not in 2017. So there was some corruption there, some people manipulating the system. We don't know. But that's what happened. So at this stage, we need to go back and make sure that our names are on the roll. The common roll update, the electoral updates. I would like to ask all the women to work together. Now, there's a lot of issues that we women we face, and if you want to go into an office where it's the male in there or the man in there, sometimes you have access to it, sometimes you don't. So if you have a woman in there, you feel free to walk in. So let's put all the differences aside. Women, let's put all the infights between us. And I want women, let's all work together this time to put women in parliament. And finally, I'd like to say that let's do it the right way. Let's do away with corruption. Let's do away with buying votes, whether in cash or kind. We'll have to do it the right way. We have to be the change of agent of change. All right, so if we start doing that, we can get a message across to our next generation. Now, Papua New Guinea is known for corruption. The elections never been run the correct way. There have been a lot of corruptions and stuff like that, but we women can be the agent of change. Now, if we can manage a home, if we can manage a family, and if we can manage a business, if we can manage the country, we women can do it. So we women has to come together as one. Together we can do it. Thank you.
Madam Julie Soso, if you have one. And if you can unmute.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, for me, the learning lesson for 2017 national election was that I think my personal thought was that the 2017 election was a failed election. It was a failed election, but the government did not take any consideration at that time to announce that it was failed. For me in Eastern Highlands, I saw that it was all failed because there was no control. There was no control, and counting down at the counting place, the tally room, the previous elections that I've contested, the tally room, we always have a big tally board. And that tally board, the progressive results are written there. And those who are our counting officials, scrutineers who are within the counting place, they watch the progressive results coming on board, and then they come off. The night people still watch the progressive results until it goes to the declaration. For us in Goroka, it was all, the tally, progressive tally was kept in the computer. There was no provincial tally board that we could see the progressive results. So for me, I thought that it was a failed election in 2017. That's why my statement here will go back. We women are trying our very best to come into parliament. When systems are not working the way we expected, these systems are also a hindrance for women to get into parliament. The electoral system, the electoral administration, once an election is over, the next year, when 2017 election was over, the next year, 2018, should be the year the Electoral Commission should be updating the common rules. It should be the year that the Electoral Commission should be looking at all the nitty-gritties of running a proper election in the next coming election. Right now, Electoral Commission, I believe, is not ready. Because by the way, I'm watching the Goroka by-election, and the way we are watching the by-election in Mosby, the Electoral Commission is not prepared to run an election. That's why people can hijack the process. People can come in and play with money. We're not supposed to be playing with money. We are voting for our legislators. Our legislators who go into parliament must go fairly. freely without corruption. They get into the decision-making parliament, and there they make decisions fairly for our people. But when they go in a corrupt way, now we can see that many things are not right within the parliament. So my last statement would be that, please, Electoral Commission, they must always update and improve from the last election. When the next election wants to come, the common roles are all updated. People are voting by their names. People who have resided in a province for a long time, their name was not on the common roll. This is really, really upsetting. In 2022 elections, it will be a challenge for us. Yes, it's going to be very expensive too. There will be a lot of women candidates who will be contesting. Here in Eastern Highlands, I'm already preparing. And yes, preparedness is very important. You have to be prepared. I'm going back in 2022, but I have to have my network in place. I have to have my coordination team already in place in my 8 districts, down to the 24 local level governments, down to the 264 LLG ward that I have, and then how many thousands of polling booths in the LLG wards. There's got to be coordinators there. But again, to manage your election campaign, it's very expensive. So we have to have the money to really go down there and you control your team from the polling booth all the way to the LLG ward coordinator, to the LLG coordinator, the district coordinator, and then the provincial management team and the coordinators. It's going to be expensive, but let's continue to try. Consistency, perseverance, we'll get there. Our government, please continue to sort this problem in the electoral administration, the electoral process of every elections that come across in Papua New Guinea. There is the Electoral Commission is coming with the motto, the logo, fair, free, and safe election. There's no fair, free, and safe elections. So second you apply at the Electoral Commission. Thank you.
Julie Soso. So I think we are coming to the end of our session. I'd like to thank our panelists very much. We've had a lot of interest and a lot of questions. I'm sorry, for the interest of time, we'll have to wrap up. But I think we've had, it was posed as a question here from one of our attendees here in Port Moresby, but I think I'll leave it here as a question to all of us, because what we're talking about in terms of women candidates, temporary special measures, all of this is around the issue of women's leadership in this country at the very highest level. We do recognize that there's women leaders all over this country, inside the house line, the churches, community, local level government. Inside the Parliament House. So this was the question which I want to leave with you, the panelists, the audience in Buka, in Wewak, in Lae, here in Port Moresby and in Goroka. The question, the statement and the question was that our founding father, late Sir Grand Chief Michael Somare, had a vision for men and women to be leaders. Do you think this vision is present in our country's current leadership landscape? And if not, how can we change it? So I will leave that statement and that question as something for all of us to go and think about. I'd like to thank our panelists, Madame Julie Soso Akeke, who joined in from Goroka. I'd like to thank Ms. Dulciana Somare-Brash, Ms. Jean Parkop, Ms. Lucy Siki Aiya, for coming and sharing your very valuable experience with us. And I'd also like to thank the Australian government for this program, Women Shaping Pacific Development. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you also to our participants in the provinces. Good day.
Good day.